There's nothing more exciting than an amusement park. They're literally designed for maximum fun and adrenaline. But like a lost doll with a missing eye lying in a pile of trash, when childhood dreams are abandoned, they become some of the creepiest things on Earth, and amusement parks are no different. Brave enough to look? Let's get it on! This Six Flags amusement park in New Orleans closed originally in preparation for the devastating Hurricane Katrina. Closing definitely saved the people, but it didn't save the park itself, as it held on to its closed for storm notice ever since, as an eerie reminder of the day of its death. Hollywood has taken advantage of the park since its destruction, and it's not hard to see why. Nobody could design a more creepy set. Its bright colors are more unnerving than joyous now. Like the park itself is trying to trick you into walking toward the ghostly shredded bunting, broken glass, and twisted metal so it can claim your soul, so it has another ghost to ride its attractions when they whir to life in the dead of night. Of course, that might not happen, but I challenge you to prove the theory wrong. Nara Dreamland was once a spectacular theme park, designed to be Japan's answer to Disney World, but unfortunately it wasn't quite as successful, and its doors were closed in 2006. Now, rather than a dreamland, it's more of a nightmare world. The pastel colors and ornately decorated attractions have survived eerily well, and the strangely creeping vegetation seems intent on reclaiming even the largest structures. Wander around long enough and you'll find yourself face to face with weather-beaten, dead-eyed smiling cartoons and strange Japanese monsters that seem content to guard their park from anyone who wants to disrupt its return to nature. Despite the dangerously rusted metal structures and its sale in 2015, the park doesn't even seem to be patrolled by guards anymore, who used to ensure no trespassers injured themselves in the Crumbling Park. One can only guess why. You've all heard about the Chernobyl disaster, right? So I don't need to tell you just how horrifying that whole catastrophe was. Well, this amusement park was due to open a few days after that disaster happened, and because it never had the joy and laughter of children to give it life, it just soaked up all the horror instead. Everyone rightly ran away and left the park to fend for itself in the radioactive environment. Now the crumbling, moldy park set in the wet, gray, lifeless landscape is almost too bleak for a traditional horror movie. Although under the circumstances, presuming it's haunted is probably a pretty safe bet. It's recently been opened for tours, since the rusted, decaying Ferris wheel became a macabre symbol for the terrible nuclear disaster, but be warned, there are still plenty of radioactive particles to be found in the area, like some horrific Easter egg hunt. Some places are just loaded with suspicious histories, and Spree Park in Germany is the king of them all. It was opened in 1969 in communist Berlin and survived quite well until the owner was forced to close and abandon it in 2001. He salvaged some rides and flew them over to Peru where he wanted to open a new park, but that was cut short when he instead attempted to smuggle 400 pounds of cocaine, which he'd hidden in his magic carpet ride. Now the park is surprisingly heavily guarded by high-spiked fences and guards with vicious dogs, despite the occasional guided tour. Several fires destroyed bits of the park, which many suspect were arson, and legend has it the owner is living in a trailer somewhere in the park since getting out of jail, with only the fallen dinosaurs and screeching Ferris wheel for company. Camelot theme park in England was, of course, a fun homage to King Arthur. It was centered around a huge roller coaster which could pull 5 Gs, called the Nightmare. Of course, it was a pun, spelt with a K as a nod to the Knights of the Round Table. But the metaphorical K must have rusted away since then, because the whole place definitely resembles a nightmare now. Its crumbling castles have revealed themselves as rotting wooden facades, making it just about the bleakest display of decayed dreams anywhere in the world. But the dingy tents and depressing, damp atmosphere isn't its only layer. It's made sure it will fuel the nightmares of any trespassers by being absolutely littered with mannequin body parts. Anyone walking past half a dummy body in the murky brown river will definitely need to take a few moments to gratefully realize they haven't stumbled upon something terrible. Goleta Lake was once considered one of the greatest places in America to relax and be entertained. It was officially opened way back in 1872 for picnics and swimming, and soon featured a huge dance hall and a big steamboat that circled the lake dragging a dance floor, and it was a truly spectacular park all the way through. Today, it's almost impossible to see why. It looks mostly like decaying slabs of concrete which only serve to ruin what could be a picturesque lake. Multiple attempts to restore it or build on the site have failed. With the park's long history, it must have plenty of ghosts hanging around trying to keep it to themselves. Dnievo Vidam Park in Hungary is pretty unique. It's the only amusement park in the world that was built and operated entirely through government funding. Of course, it was the Soviet Union funding it, and because it was communist, it was free to go, and old footage shows it looked pretty good. But these days, it's very strange. The abandoned park now looks more like a public garden than an amusement park, and it seems unsettlingly calm. Get past the blossoming trees, tulips, and greenery, and you'll find odd structures that look like they were put there simply to confuse any archaeologist who might find it a few hundred years in the future. Huge round brick circles that look like giant fountains were actually rides once. There's a room that looks like a hall, but look closer and you see it inexplicably housed a strange carousel, and a giant metal spider which now stands menacingly alone used to cradle bumper cars. This creepy relic is not the kind of place you want to get lost in. Looking at the remains of Encore Garden, it's difficult to believe it wasn't always creepy. Maybe it was, despite being a popular attraction in Taiwan before the huge and devastating earthquake in 1999 that destroyed bits of the amusement park. It struggled to stay open for years, but was finally abandoned in 2008. It looks like it's been sinking into the mud and jungle ever since, with wallowing bumper cars and weirdly European sculptures covered in creepers now featuring as main attractions, since the huge wooden amphitheater doesn't have any shows to put on anymore. But there are plenty of things to see that must have been creepy in their heyday, like huge merlions, giant Chinese opera masks, and snarling red carousel horses. And if those creepy things and patrolling guards weren't enough to keep you out, the park is filled with giant golden orb weaver spiders, just to add an extra unneeded element of horror. Kajonema Leisureland comes complete with its own ghostly local legend. It's said to be cursed by the ghost of a woman who was driven mad by the cries of her snake baby who slithered away, so she drowned herself in the pond. Actually, to add a bit of real-world horror, the park was originally built to restore joy to Japan after World War II, and it does look like it was built by people who don't know what happiness is but are trying very hard to replicate it. The designs are just a little bit too cute, and the colors are just that little bit too bright. Those almost alien versions of joy are heightened by the vacant decay that's found in the park now. All those shades of brown in the grass and the rust probably make it look weirder than it really was, we hope. Sometimes real life really does outdo horror movies. Wonderland in China was meant to be the largest amusement park in Asia, but it was never finished. Construction was just abandoned in 1998 and life took over. Now the park looks like remnants of a dream nobody had, and a huge, crumbling, never-finished castle stand alone in huge open cornfields. That's the kind of cliche nobody would believe if they saw it in a film. Children did come to the park though, to play on the ruined structures among the farmers whose fields are interrupted by the strange buildings. It's all staircases to nowhere and huge metal skeletons of buildings that were meant to bring joy to children but never allowed to come to life, and are now forced to serve as signposts warning of a poisoned soil on the site.